Hello and welcome. Let's talk about the unsung hero of your home, the HVAC system, right? It's that super complex web of machinery that keeps you cool in the summer and warm in the winter. But what really makes it tick? Or, maybe more importantly, what makes it fail? Today, we're going to dive deep into the powerful, unseen forces that are putting your home's comfort to the ultimate test.
Okay, picture this. It's the absolute peak of a summer heat wave. The humidity is just off the charts, and then silence. The cool air just stops. You're sweating, you're frustrated, and you're thinking, wow, this is just my luck. Well, what if I told you it's probably not luck at all? What if it's the predictable end of a battle your system has been fighting for years?
That's right, the single biggest factor. It might just be something you can't even control. Your location, where you live, and the specific climate challenges that come with your region puts a totally unique kind of stress on your equipment. And that is what can lead to those perfectly timed, catastrophic failures.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to break down your climate's hidden impact, then we'll decode the common warning signs your system is practically screaming at you. After that, we'll tackle that huge question, do you repair or do you replace? Then, we'll walk you through what to expect when you call a pro, and finally, why local standards really matter for your safety and your wallet. So to really wrap our heads around this, we're going to use Michigan as a perfect case study. Its weather pushes heating and cooling systems to their absolute breaking point, and it really shows us the kinds of challenges that a lot of us face no matter where we live.
I mean, your system goes through a serious whiplash effect. On one side, you've got these sub-zero winters where the furnace is running pretty much nonstop. And it's not just about the workload. Being in a freeze-thaw belt means all the metal parts in your system are constantly expanding and contracting, which creates these tiny stresses. Then, bam, summer hits. The humidity skyrockets, forcing your AC to not only cool the air, but also yank huge amounts of moisture out of it. And all that moisture, it just speeds up rust and corrosion on all those delicate parts.
And it doesn't stop there. The environment right outside your front door is piling on too. Clay-heavy soil, which is pretty common, acts like a sponge, right? It holds on to moisture and raises the humidity in basements, exactly where a lot of this equipment is. And hey, if you're in a home built in the 50s or 60s, that original ductwork has been suffering through decades of these moisture cycles. Even those beautiful leafy trees can be a problem, shedding leaves and gunk that can clog up your outdoor unit, basically choking it.
So with all that stress piling on, your system is eventually going to start sending out distress signals. The real trick is knowing how to listen. Let's dig into what those cries for help actually look and sound like.
So one of the most common cries for help in a cold climate: ignition failure. When it gets brutally cold outside, your furnace's igniter or its flame sensor is way more likely to give out. And this is often because tiny drafts or maybe a frozen condensate line are messing up that delicate combustion process right when you need the heat the most.
Now, on the cooling side of things, that constant expanding and contracting we talked about, it can create tiny, almost invisible leaks in your refrigerant lines. And the first sign is usually your AC running, but the air coming out of the vents is warm. This is not just an inconvenience, folks. Low refrigerant can quickly destroy the most expensive part of your whole system, the compressor.
You ever notice the air from your vents just feels kind of weaker than it used to? Well, that's often a ductwork problem. Over the decades, those metal ducts can corrode and get holes in them, or if you have flexible ducts, they can get crushed or compressed. Either way, it's restricting the airflow your system is working so hard to produce.
And finally, the really obvious signs. If you hear clanking or banging or scraping, that is literally the sound of a mechanical part in distress. And that musty, dirty sock smell? That is a clear sign that moisture and maybe even mold is building up somewhere in your system. Please, don't ignore these. They are urgent warnings.
So when one of these warnings finally turns into a full-blown failure, you're suddenly faced with a big, expensive question. Do you pay for another repair, or is it finally time to just replace the whole thing?
Thankfully, there's a really handy rule of thumb in the industry that can help guide you through this decision. It's called the $5,000 rule, and it's basically designed to stop you from throwing good money after bad on a system that's already on its last legs.
And the best part is how simple it is. Let's say you have a 14-year-old system, and you get a repair quote for $400. You just multiply 400 by 14, and you get $5,600. Since that number is over $5,000, the rule suggests that replacement is probably the smarter long-term financial move. It's just a quick way to put a very emotional decision into a nice, logical framework.
Okay, so you've made the call. You're bringing in a professional.
Whether it's for a repair or a full replacement, just knowing what's supposed to happen can take a lot of the stress out of the whole situation.
Look, a quality service call should always follow these 3 transparent steps. First, when you call, you should talk to a real person and get a clear arrival window. Second, and this is so key, the technician needs to find the root cause, not just the symptom, and give you a written estimate that you have to approve before any work starts. No surprises. And finally, after the repair, they should test the system to make sure everything's running correctly and safely.
All right, now for our final section. I know this might sound a bit technical, but trust me, it's incredibly important. We're talking about the local building codes that govern all this work, because they exist for a very good reason, to protect you.
Remember how we said your zip code was a huge factor? Well, this is where it becomes official. Regions like Michigan are designated as Climate Zone 5A. It's a technical term that basically just means tough winters, warm summers. And this designation comes with a whole specific set of rules for any HVAC work done in that area.
And this chart breaks down what those rules are all about. They set minimum efficiency standards, like 80% AFUE for furnaces, 13 SEER for air conditioners, to make sure your new equipment can actually handle the local climate without wasting a ton of energy. They even tell you how much insulation your ductwork needs in places like attics to make sure you're not just heating your crawl space all winter.
So the real takeaway here is this. Insisting on a proper, permitted installation isn't just about red tape. It's about making sure the system runs safely and efficiently, exactly like the manufacturer designed it to. And get this, an installation done without the right permits can often void your warranty, leaving you completely unprotected if something goes wrong down the line.
So just remember, in a demanding climate, you can probably expect about 15 to 20 years from your system. But that number comes with a big asterisk, only with proper maintenance. Skipping those annual tune-ups is honestly the fastest way to shorten the life of one of the most expensive things in your entire home.
And that brings us to our final thought. Now that you get the hidden forces at play here, from your local climate all the way down to the age of your ductwork, what's one small proactive step you can take this season? Whether it's just changing a filter or clearing some leaves from your outdoor unit, or maybe finally scheduling that maintenance you've been putting off. Preventing a big problem always starts with one small step.